When was the last time you were actually, genuinely happy new, and you had no idea why? Not from good news. Not tied to an event, or a person, or something you'd been waiting on. I mean the quiet, uncaused kind. The kind that just showed up one afternoon, and you almost felt suspicious of it. Like it didn't belong to you. Here's what I want you to sit with for a second. If happiness can show up like that, uninvited, unreasoned, completely free, then what's actually stopping you from feeling it right now? That's the uncomfortable question, isn't it? You felt it land. Because somewhere underneath all your very reasonable explanations, the stress, the unresolved stuff, the circumstances that need to change first, there's this quiet voice that wonders, what if I'm making this harder than it has to be? I don't think that voice is wrong, and I've spent a long time trying to figure out why. So, let's start with what your brain is actually doing when you feel happy. Because most people have this completely backwards. We tend to think happiness is something that arrives, a reward the brain hands out after something good happens. You get the job, the relationship, the moment you've been waiting for, and then, finally, the chemicals release and you feel it. But that's not what the neuroscience shows. Dopamine, the chemical most people associate with pleasure, is widely misunderstood. It's not really the pleasure molecule. It's the anticipation molecule. It surges most powerfully during the pursuit of a goal, not at the moment you actually achieve it. Read that again slowly. The chemical your brain releases most powerfully isn't triggered by getting what you want. It's triggered by moving toward it, by the chase, by expecting something good. Dopamine's association with happiness was emphasized because of its role in prediction, anticipation, and approach behavior toward rewarding outcomes. And there's overwhelming evidence that dopamine guides learning about reward by tracking violations in our expectations, what researchers call prediction errors, which means your brain isn't a passive machine waiting to be fed happiness from outside. It's actively constructing the feeling based on what it expects, what it predicts, and what signals it gets from your body and your choices. And that, right there, that's everything. Because if the brain builds happiness, if it manufactures it based on signals, then the question shifts completely. It stops being, how do I arrange my life to get more happiness? And it becomes, what signals can I deliberately send my brain right now to shift what it produces? This is the part most people never reach, because they never ask the second question, the first signal. Stay with me here, because this one runs deeper than it looks. It's about gratitude, but not the version you've been sold, not the journaling as a wellness, aesthetic version, the actual mechanism. What's really happening in the brain tissue when gratitude is practiced. Gratitude activates key regions including the prefrontal cortex, the anterior cingulate cortex, the ventral striatum, which processes rewards, the feminine, and the insula, which handles emotional awareness. Think about what that list actually means. The ventral striatum is your brain's core reward center. The same structure that lights up when you eat something delicious or accomplish something meaningful. Gratitude activates it. Not because you tricked your brain, but because genuine recognition of something good is, at the neurological level, actual reward processing. Writing down 3 specific things you're grateful for each night increases activity in the medial prefrontal cortex and anterior cingulate cortex. In controlled studies, people who wrote gratitude letters showed greater neural sensitivity to gratitude 3 months later. The brain had literally become more attuned to positive experience. You're teaching it to scan for good. instead of defaulting to threat detection. You could read 100 articles about this and miss the thing that actually matters. Gratitude doesn't just feel nice. It physically retrains what your brain chooses to notice. And once your brain starts scanning for good, then it finds it. Not because life changed, because the filter changed. Research from Harvard Medical School found that consistent gratitude practice lowered cortisol levels, the hormone responsible for stress. People also reported better sleep and a greater sense of calm day to day. I want to be honest here. When I first found this research, I found it almost annoying because I'd heard be grateful 1,000 times, and it always felt like a brush off, like someone handing you a bandage and calling it surgery. But the mechanism is different from the message. The message says, be grateful and feel better. The mechanism says targeted attention to real, specific good things physically alters the neural pathways your brain travels by default. Gratitude creates and strengthens neural pathways related to happiness and well-being. Feeling thankful today makes it easier to access positive emotions in the future. The path gets easier the more you walk it. That's not a metaphor. That's neuroplasticity. The second signal, this one's stranger and more immediately available than you'd think. Your face is talking to your brain right now. It has been this whole time. And your brain is listening. This is the facial feedback hypothesis. It's had a complicated history. The he's questioned, replicated poorly, debated loudly. But here's where the evidence actually lands. Across 26 labs, nearly 3,900 participants, 19 countries, deliberately posing a smile produced a small but reliable boost in reported happiness. Small but reliable. I think about those words a lot. People dismiss this because the effect isn't dramatic, but that's the wrong way to look at it. Smiling triggers real chemical changes. Research shows that smiling, even forced smiling, lowers heart rate and blunts stress hormones. Genuine smiles reliably activate the brain's reward circuitry through dopamine. Here's what I think we get wrong about this. We expect the feeling to come first, then the expression follows. We're waiting to feel happy before we smile, but the brain's system doesn't only flow that direction. The signal runs both ways. When we smile, even deliberately, facial muscles send signals to the brain. Those signals can prompt the release of dopamine and serotonin. So smiling might not just be a result of feeling happy. It might actually help create the feeling. I'll be honest. Quote, I find this part philosophically dizzying because it asks something uncomfortable. If I can shift my emotional state by rearranging my face, then what exactly is the relationship between my expression and my experience? Which one is even real? I think they're both real. I think the body and brain are in constant conversation. And most of us have never considered that we could change that conversation by changing what the body is saying. That changes things. Not because smiling magically fixes depression or erases suffering. It doesn't. And I want to be clear about that. But it reveals something important about the architecture of your emotional system. It's not a fixed state you passively inhabit. It's a dynamic process your choices are constantly shaping. The third signal. And this one lives in something even more basic than expression. It lives in completion. We talked about dopamine firing in anticipation of reward, not just during it. But here's the practical part almost nobody actually applies. Your brain doesn't care about the size of the win. It cares about completion. Even a small goal gives a dopamine boost morning. And this can be as simple as checking something off a to-do list. Think about that. The same neurochemical system that responds to major achievements also responds to minor ones. The brain isn't evaluating the objective importance of what you finished. It's responding to the act of finishing itself. Deep, focused work engages the prefrontal cortex and releases dopamine through progress tracking. Setting small goals and completing them builds intrinsic motivation. That's not a productivity tip. One, a doonit. That's just how the system works. This is why people who feel stuck also tend to feel chemically flat. Not because nothing good is happening, but because nothing is completing. Everything is mid-process. Open loops everywhere. The brain is running 100 anticipation signals with no resolution, near, and that state, over time, produces something that feels a lot like low-grade unhappiness. The fix sounds almost too simple. Do one small thing. Finish it. Fully. Let it be done. Then, actually let yourself notice that it's done. I had to sit with this for a while before I believed it. It seemed too easy. But that's kind of the point. The brain doesn't require the victory to be impressive. It requires the cycle to close. Anticipation, action, completion. That three-part sequence is what the dopamine system was built to reward. Your brain produces chemicals that directly shape how you feel, moment to moment and across your entire life. Working with these systems isn't pop psychology fluff. Lent, it's practical neuroscience. The right daily habits can measurably shift your neurochemical baseline, and some of the most powerful ones take less than 20 minutes. Here's the question I keep coming back to, and I want to leave it with you. 3 real, research-backed mechanisms. Gratitude retunes the brain's attentional filter. Expression feeds back into emotion. Completion closes the dopamine loop. All 3 are available to you right now. Not after circumstances change. Not when things settle down. Right now. So, the deeper question isn't whether these work. The research is pretty clear on that. The question is, why don't we do them? And honestly, I think somewhere along the way, we started believing happiness had to be deserved, earned through enough suffering, enough waiting, enough solving the right problems first. We made it a destination. Instead of a state, the brain is always capable of moving toward. The brain isn't waiting for your life to be perfect. It's waiting for signals. Small, real, deliberate signals that tell it which direction to build in. You've got 3 of them now. The only question worth asking yourself tonight is which one you're actually going to use.